2 decades ago, Russian-American anthropologist Alexei Yurchak coined the term hypernormalisation to describe the absurd and surreal reality of the Soviet Union during its final 2 decades. In that era, both citizens and officials knew the Soviet system was dysfunctional and no longer reflected reality. Yet everyone continued as if nothing was wrong. Few could have imagined that the Berlin Wall would collapse or that the mighty Soviet Union would disintegrate into 15 independent states, with Russia relying on US wheat imports in the 1990s. Looking back, it's easy to identify the broken parts of that system and understand just how surreal and unsustainable it truly was. What Yurchak framed as hyper-normalized. Now consider this. 15 medics and rescue workers were recently executed by the Israeli army in Gaza. And after one captured the moment on video, refuting the Israeli army official narrative, the world is asking questions. In Israel, however, the story barely made a ripple. There have been no public reckoning, no moral introspection, except from the families of hostages who continue to advocate for their loved ones without acknowledging the catastrophic suffering being inflicted in their name on 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. The very fact that rescue workers were executed in a manner reminiscent of dystopian film without any justification, while Israeli society continues on as if it happened on another planet, is staggering. Not a single Israeli politician submitted a query or criticized the incident. Amid this madness, Israeli society appears to be in a state of cognitive dissonance, divorced from reality itself. Late last year, the Israeli branch of Amnesty International refused to accept the organization's own report on the genocide in Gaza. This, despite the fact that Amnesty Israel, which was subsequently suspended by the international organization, has the most direct exposure to the horrors in Gaza and the public discourse that legitimizes them. Israel's war has killed more than 50,000 people in Gaza and inflicted widespread starvation. Israeli society hyper-normalized acceptance of this violence comes as the nation sinks further into absurdity, with its prime minister dismantling the very institutions of the state. During his recent visit to Hungary, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was awarded an honorary doctorate from the University of Public Service in Budapest, apparently orchestrating a genocide and being wanted by the International Criminal Court qualifies one for academic honors. More astonishingly, while standing in an institution meant to train civil servants, Netanyahu attacked civil service itself, invoking his father's warning about the power of the deep state. That term, believed to originate in Turkey around the 1990s to describe covert network of generals and high-level bureaucrats operating beyond democratic oversight. Netanyahu, however, knows fully well that Israel doesn't have a deep state because it doesn't need one. Take 3 of Israel's most central institutions: the military, police, and Supreme Court. The army is undergoing upheavals with a large number of commanders either resigning or being dismissed after the failures of 7 October of 2023. Police services are unraveling under the influence of far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, with the Shin Bet looking into alleged infiltration by Kahanists. And the Supreme Court, often accused of promoting a leftist or liberal agenda, is in fact more concerned with shielding Israel internationally, even with faced with core identity issues such as the controversial nation-state law, which entrenches Jewish superiority over Palestinian citizens. The court provides full legal validation. This is the same court that legitimizes settler land grab in the occupied West Bank. Unlike in normal democracies, Israel's security figures are not only admired, they are professionally funneled into politics. From Moshe Dayan to Yitzhak Rabin, Ariel Sharon, Shaul Mufaz, Benny Gantz, and many others, security credentials are a direct pipeline to power. At the same time, while Netanyahu rallies against bureaucratic control, his wife and son have been accused of meddling in senior state appointments, despite having no legal authority. Both have become polarizing figures, idolized by parts of the population and despised by others. Beyond Israel's domestic collapse, Netanyahu continues to pursue his dangerous regional ambition. Upon returning from a recent visit to the White House, he reportedly pressed Washington to consider a strike on Iran if certain conditions in US-Iran negotiations weren't met. Simultaneously, he's pushing for fragmentation in Syria in ways that favor Israeli strategic interests, as if Syrians have no say over their own future. Netanyahu continues to speak of Gaza's transfer plan, even as the Arab world and the international community reject the notion as a danger threat to global stability. And yet, across Israeli highways, you'll still find giant billboards of US President Donald Trump and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman under the slogan, "Israel is ready for normalization with Saudi Arabia." Contrary to what Netanyahu and many Israelis wish to believe, Israel cannot be a regional hegemon. This is not because it lacks military power. On the contrary, with the US and broader Western backing, it wields considerable force. Rather, it's because Israel fundamentally rejects soft power. Nuclear powers around the world balance hard power with soft power, knowing full well that tanks and sanctions can't control everything. Culture, social change, climate, people, these two shape global affairs. In addition, demography and geography do not favor Israel in relation to the territories it wishes to hold, and the millions of Syrians, Lebanese, and Palestinian people it wants to control. Israel's reliance on force alone is already showing signs of collapse. Political tensions among different Israeli groups, especially around the issue of hostages, are beginning to affect the army itself, with reserve soldiers experiencing widespread burnout. The long-term psychological effect of war on soldiers are real, and the social price is only beginning to show. There is nothing normal about what's happening in Israel right now. The idea that this madness can continue indefinitely is not just absurd, it's dangerous. Netanyahu's reckless regional adventurism is not only destabilizing the Middle East, it's also tearing the Israeli society itself.